The eviction notice was crisp and official, printed on stark white paper that felt heavy with finality. I held it in my trembling hands. The words 72HOUR notice to pay or vacate, blurring as tears welled in my eyes. The landlord, a kind but weary man named Mr. Henderson, had given me one final extension, but my time had run out. The $1,200 in back rent might as well have been $1.2 million. My phone buzzed, cutting through the panic-induced silence of my studio apartment. The screen lit up with a photo notification from my mother. With a sinking heart, I tapped it open. There they were, my parents, my older brother, and his wife. All smiling broadly under a brilliant Bali sunset. They were holding colorful cocktails, the ocean stretching out behind them in an endless turquoise ribbon. The caption read, "Paradise found. The villa is even more beautiful than the photos. Missing you all. #family vacation #blessed." A bitter laugh escaped my lips. Missing you all. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. They weren't missing me, they were reveling in their exclusion of me. I was that you all they could comfortably forget for 2 weeks while they lounged in a luxury villa that cost more per night than my monthly rent. I looked around my own paradise, a 300-square-foot studio with a persistent leak under the kitchen sink and a window that rattled with every gust of wind. A single, sad-looking potted plant on the windowsill was my only attempt at decor. The contrast was a physical blow. This wasn't a new dynamic. I was the family's creative, the one who had pursued a degree in graphic design while my brother followed the approved path to a business degree and a lucrative career in finance. My parents had never understood my unstable career choice. They saw my freelance work as a hobby, my financial struggles as a predictable consequence of my refusal to get a real job. My brother, the golden child, could do no wrong. His engagement party had been a lavish affair at a country club. His wedding had been featured in a local society magazine. When he and his wife bought their first home, a sprawling suburban McMansion, my parents had gifted them a $20,000 down payment. A little help to get them started, my mother had explained, as if it were a trifle. When I had tentatively asked for a loan 6 months ago to cover a slow work period, the response had been a chorus of disapproval. "Your brother never asks us for money," my father had said, his voice stern. "You need to learn financial responsibility," my mother had chimed in. "Maybe it's time to think about a more stable career path," my brother had added, not unkindly, but with the condescension of someone who had never worried about a checking account balance. And now they were in Bali. While I faced homelessness. As if on cue, my phone rang. It was my mother. I considered letting it go to voicemail, but a morbid curiosity won out. "Sweetheart," her voice was breezy, filled with the relaxed joy of someone who hadn't a care in the world. "Oh, you should see this place. It's absolute heaven. The infinity pool overlooks the jungle. And we have a private chef who makes the most incredible satay." "That sounds wonderful, Mom," I said, my voice flat. I crumpled the eviction notice in my hand. "We're having the time of our lives. But listen, honey, we have a tiny favor to ask." I already knew. My jaw tightened. "What is it?" "The house," she said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "We're a little nervous about leaving it empty for 2 whole weeks. You know how the neighborhood is these days. And my orchids. They'll simply wither and die without daily attention. Could you be an absolute angel and house sit for us? Just from this Saturday until we get back." It would give us such peace of mind. The audacity was stunning. They were in a 5-star resort in Southeast Asia, concerned about their security system and houseplants, while their daughter was about to be locked out of her own apartment. They saw me not as a family member in crisis, but as a convenient, free service. I don't know, Mom, I said, forcing my voice to sound weary. I'm swamped with a big project deadline. It's a huge inconvenience. This was a lie. My project calendar was emptier than my refrigerator. Oh, please, she wheedled. For your family? We'd be so grateful. And you can use the peace and quiet to work. It's much nicer than your little apartment. You can swim in the pool, use your father's fancy espresso machine. Think of it as a little staycation. A staycation. While they were in Bali, the condescension was the final spark. A plan began to form in my mind, wild and reckless. It was petty. It was probably a little unhinged. And in that moment, it felt like the only form of power I had left. I injected a sigh of defeat into my voice. Fine, I said. I'll do it. Wonderful. You're a lifesaver. The key is under the frog statue by the fountain. We'll see you when we get back. I hung up and stared at the crumpled eviction notice. Then I looked at the photo of my family, smiling in paradise. A slow, cold smile spread across my face. They wanted a house sitter? They were going to get one. They just had no idea what kind. The moment I stepped into my parents' house, the familiar scent of lemon-scented polish and unearned privilege hit me. It was a beautiful home, a testament to my father's success as a corporate lawyer, a success he never missed an opportunity to contrast with my creative instability. The foyer was marble. The living room was furnished with expensive, uncomfortable-looking modern furniture. The kitchen was a chef's dream, all gleaming stainless steel and granite countertops. It was a showroom, not a home, and it was filled with their most prized possessions. My father's prized possession was his wine cellar. It was a temperature-controlled room behind a locked door, filled with racks of bottles he loved to show off to his friends. He had a leather-bound ledger detailing every vintage, its value, and the special occasion for which it was destined. He loved those bottles more than he loved most people. My mother's pride and joy was her collection of Limoges porcelain boxes. Dozens of them, displayed in a locked glass cabinet in the formal living room. Each one was a tiny, exquisitely painted, and utterly useless trinket, worth hundreds of dollars. My brother, though he didn't live here, had left his mark. His old bedroom was now a state-of-the-art home gym, with equipment that had probably been used twice. His high school and college trophies still lined the shelves, dusted daily. For the first 2 days, I did exactly what was expected of me. I watered the orchids with painstaking care. I brought in the mail. I swam in the pristine, filtered pool. I worked from my father's expensive leather office chair, using his lightning-fast internet. And I planned. My revenge would not be crude. I wouldn't throw a wild party or steal anything. That was beneath me. My revenge would be elegant, psychological, and deeply personally tailored. It would be a series of small, unsettling adjustments that would slowly drive them insane, leaving them wondering if they were losing their minds. I started with the kitchen. I knew my brother, a self-proclaimed foodie, would inevitably raid the fridge the second they returned. I went to a specialty market and bought the most pungent, artisanal cheeses I could find, a ripe époisses that smelled like a barnyard, and a powerful blue cheese. I unwrapped them and placed them front and center on the top shelf. Then, I meticulously rearranged the entire kitchen. I put the coffee mugs in the cupboard where the glasses went. I moved all the spices into alphabetical order. I swapped the contents of the sugar and salt canisters. It was a small, insidious form of chaos. Next, I moved to the living room. My mother was a creature of habit and a secret snoop. She would inevitably go through my things when I wasn't looking. So, I left a carefully crafted, fake invoice on the desk in the guest room. It was from a major design firm, offering me a full-time senior creative director position with a salary that was triple what my brother made. I made sure to leave it half hidden under a notebook, as if I were trying to keep it secret. But the main event required more audacity. My father's wine cellar. With a steady hand and a racing heart, I used a paperclip to pick the simple lock, a skill I'd learned from a YouTube video during a particularly boring freelance project. I didn't steal a single bottle. That would be too obvious. Instead, I took his precious ledger. For hours, I sat at his desk, cross-referencing his notes with online databases. Then, with a meticulousness that would have made him proud, I began switching the tags and locations of about 24 of his most prized bottles. A $3,000 bottle of Chateau Margaux was now logged as a $30 Cabernet from a vineyard he considered pedestrian. A rare Burgundy was now stored in the rack he reserved for everyday wines. It was a time bomb of future humiliation, set to detonate at his next important dinner party when he would proudly serve a priceless vintage that was, in fact, a cheap substitute. The final part of my plan was the most satisfying. I was a graphic designer. My revenge would be visual and utterly public. I took out my professional camera and began a photo shoot. But instead of cataloging the house's pristine state, I staged scenes of a life they would find baffling and offensive. I took a picture of my feet, clad in my father's expensive Italian loafers, propped up on his precious mahogany desk. I photographed my laptop, showing a mocked-up winner of prestigious design award notification, with my mother's heirloom vase prominently in the background. I even took a serene, beautifully filtered photo of me sipping coffee by the pool, with the caption drafted in my head, "Finding creativity and peace in beautiful spaces." So grateful for the quiet to focus on my groundbreaking new project. #grind, #creative life, #not struggling. I didn't post any of it. Not yet. I saved them all in a folder, ready for deployment at the perfect moment. The day my family returned, I made sure the house was spotless. The floors gleamed. The orchids were perky and vibrant. There was fresh, organic milk in the fridge, right next to the stinky cheese. Their entrance was a whirlwind of tan lines, designer luggage, and loud stories about snorkeling and Balinese massages. They were too full of their own adventures to pay me much mind. "Everything go okay?" my mother asked, already drifting towards the kitchen to put her precious Bali coffee in the cupboard. "Perfectly," I said, smiling innocently. "It was my brother who found the cheese first." "Ugh, what is that smell?" he groaned, opening the fridge. "Did something die in here?" My mother peered in. "Oh, for heaven's sake. Who rearranged everything? I can't find anything." I just shrugged. I must have gotten confused while cleaning. "I wanted to make sure everything was extra tidy for your return." The real explosion happened 2 hours later. My father, wanting to select a nice bottle of wine to have with dinner, went down to the cellar. He came back up, his face a thundercloud, holding the ledger. "What is the meaning of this?" he boomed, waving the book at me. My catalog is ruined. The 82 Margot is in the wrong rack. This is a travesty. This is a $3,000 bottle of wine. I was just dusting down there, I said, my voice calm. I must have mixed them up. I'm so sorry, I didn't realize they were so particular. Particular? He roared. This is a collection, not a stack of firewood. This is thousands of dollars of value, compromised by your carelessness. That's when my mother, who had been quietly seething about the kitchen, decided to drop her bomb. While we're on the subject of carelessness, she said, her voice icy, I found this on the desk. She held up the fake job invoice. Is this why you were so distracted? Lying about some fancy new job? We were worried about the house, and you were fabricating some fantasy life? The room fell silent. All their pent-up frustration, their sense of superiority, their disappointment in me, was out in the open. I looked at their angry, entitled faces. I had taken care of their multi-million-dollar home, their prized possessions, for free, while they gallivanted across the globe. And this was their thanks. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I simply picked up my bag. I see, I said quietly. Well, I'm glad your vacation was lovely. I hope the memories are worth it. I walked out, leaving them in their beautiful, perfect, and now psychologically booby-trapped home. I went radio silent for 2 days. I ignored their calls and texts, which shifted from angry to slightly concerned to outright furious. The family group chat was a barrage of messages about my disrespect and unstable behavior. I waited. I let the tension simmer. I had moved my few belongings into a friend's spare room. My eviction crisis temporarily averted by their generosity. The shame of my situation was now overshadowed by the cold satisfaction of my plan. Then, on the 3rd day, I opened the folder on my computer. I selected the best photos from my photo shoot, the one with my feet on the desk, the serene poolside shot, and a close-up of my mother's Limoges boxes with a caption about drawing inspiration from delicate beauty. I crafted a caption that was a masterpiece of passive aggression. Asterisk, sometimes, life gives you lemons. And sometimes, it gives you a stunning, peaceful house to look after while your family vacations in Bali. Grateful for the quiet space to finish the project that just landed me the senior creative director position at fake prestigious firm. It's amazing what you can achieve when you have peace, a beautiful environment, and the unwavering belief that your passion is valid. Shout out to Mom's Orchids for being the best colleagues and Dad's wine cellar for its interesting energy. Hashtag new beginnings, hashtag hustle, hashtag creative director, hashtag blessed and stressed. Hashtag jawline lamp is my new best friend. I used the hashtag jawline lamp, which was an inside joke among my design friends about a hideously expensive and angular lamp my mother adored. It was a final, tiny dagger only I would understand. I didn't tag my family. I didn't need to. My social media was set to public, and I knew my brother's wife, a notorious social media hawk, would see it within minutes. I posted it and waited. The reaction was faster and more spectacular than I could have imagined. My phone began to blow up. Not with calls from family, but with notifications from the post itself. My friends, who knew the whole story, commented with fire emojis and "Yas Queen" messages. Acquaintances from college congratulated me on the new job. But the best part was the comments from my parents' friends and my brother's colleagues. "So proud of you," wrote one of my mom's bridge club friends. "That house is gorgeous. No wonder you're so creative." commented my brother's boss's wife. Looks like someone's living their best life, added a distant cousin. My carefully crafted narrative had completely hijacked theirs. Instead of the irresponsible, struggling daughter, I was now the successful, ambitious creative director, making the most of a family favor. The post was a resounding success. The call from my mother came an hour later. She was sputtering with rage. How dare you? Posting pictures of our private home. Inventing some fake job. You have humiliated us in front of everyone. Humiliated you? I replied, my voice cool and steady. I thought I was just sharing my good news. You know, being grateful for the peace and quiet, just like you suggested. Funny how you never want me to post about my successes, only my failures. This isn't success. This is a lie. And you know it. Is it? I asked. Or is it just a story you don't like? The story where I'm not the pitiful one. The story where I'm winning. There was a long silence on the other end. I could almost hear the gears turning in her head. We won't be asking you to house sit again, she said finally, her voice clipped and cold. I laughed. It was a genuine, from the gut laugh. That, I said, is the best news I've heard all year. I hung up. They never apologized. They never acknowledged their own behavior. The family dynamic settled into a new, colder normal. But something had fundamentally shifted. The power balance was no longer entirely in their favor. A week later, the fake job I'd invented on the invoice miraculously manifested into a real, solid offer from a reputable firm. It wasn't the senior creative director role, but it was a stable, well-paying position with room to grow. I took it. The steady paycheck allowed me to pay off my back rent and secure a new, slightly better apartment. I never did find out if my father discovered all the switched wine bottles, or if he served a $30 bottle to his boss thinking it was a priceless vintage. That secret was my own little trophy. My mother never mentioned the rearranged kitchen again. But I heard from a cousin that she'd been quietly seeing a therapist for anxiety. I still see their perfect Instagram posts. But now, when I see them vacationing in Greece or my brother buying a new car, I just smile. I no longer feel the sting of envy or the ache of exclusion. I'm too busy living my own life, on my own terms. In my own apartment, which I can finally afford without a second thought. They got their vacation in Bali. But I got the last laugh. And in the end, mine was the one that didn't require a return flight. It was the laugh of someone who had finally stopped seeking their approval and started building a life so solid that their disapproval simply bounced off. The sister they thought they could use as a free house sitter had proven that her creativity wasn't a liability, it was her greatest weapon. And she had just won the war. 6 months after the house-sitting incident, as it had come to be known in my mind, life had settled into a new, peaceful rhythm. My new job was challenging but rewarding, and for the first time in years, I wasn't living paycheck to paycheck. The constant, low-grade hum of financial anxiety had been replaced by a quiet confidence. My family and I maintained a cautious, distant truce. We exchanged polite texts on birthdays and saw each other at major holidays, where conversations remained safely superficial. The deep, festering wound of our relationship had scabbed over, leaving a scar. But the constant pain was gone. Then, on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, I received an email that would change everything. It was from a woman named Eleanor Vance, the president of a well-known lifestyle and design brand. "Dear, my name," it began. "I came across your Instagram post from several months ago, the one with the beautiful interior shots and the caption about finding creativity in peaceful spaces. I must admit, I was also following the rather dramatic fallout in the comments section from your family members. My heart skipped a beat. Oh God, had a potential employer seen my family's messy public squabble? She continued. What impressed me, however, was your poise. The narrative you crafted was powerful. The undervalued creative, the reclamation of space. The quiet defiance. It resonated with our brand's new campaign, Redefine Your Space. We're looking for authentic voices who understand the emotional power of our surroundings. Would you be interested in consulting with us on this project? The fee would be commensurate with your expertise. I read the email 3 times, my hands trembling. The fee she mentioned was more than I had made in the last 6 months of freelancing. It was a life-changing amount. I took the job. The campaign was a huge success. My story, heavily edited for public consumption, of course, became a central part of their marketing. The image of me, looking serene and successful in my parents' home, was splashed across social media and even in a few print magazines. I was suddenly a minor celebrity in the design world. The woman who turned house sitting into a career launchpad. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. The very act that was meant to diminish me, being asked to house sit while my family vacationed, had become the foundation of my professional breakthrough. The final, and most unexpected, twist came about a year later. I was visiting my parents for a strained Christmas dinner. The conversation was, as usual, tiptoeing around any meaningful topics. Then, my father, who had been unusually quiet, cleared his throat. I saw your campaign for Eleanor Vance, he said, not looking at me directly. It's very good. It was the closest he had ever come to a compliment about my career. The room fell silent. Thank you, Dad, I said, my voice even. He hesitated, then continued, a client of mine saw it too. He's the CEO of a major tech firm. He asked if you'd be interested in designing the interior concept for their new corporate headquarters. It's a very substantial project. He slid a business card across the table. I picked it up. It was for one of the most influential CEOs in the state. I looked at my father, truly looked at him. For the first time, I didn't see judgment or disappointment in his eyes. I saw something else, respect. Not the grudging respect of a parent for a stubborn child, but the professional respect of one adult for another. I didn't know how to approach you about it, he admitted. His voice uncharacteristically vulnerable. After everything. My mother was watching us, her expression complex. My brother was conspicuously silent, studying his plate. In that moment, I understood the full scope of my victory. It wasn't just about getting a better job or proving them wrong. It was about forcing them to see me through a new lens, a lens not of their making, but of mine. I had rewritten the narrative of my life so powerfully that even they had to accept the new version. I took the project, of course. It cemented my reputation and my financial security for years to come. The day I signed the contract, I drove to my parents' house. I didn't go inside. I just sat in my car, a reliable, modest, but fully paid for sedan, and looked at the beautiful, imposing structure. It no longer held power over me. It was just a house. I thought about the eviction notice, the photo from Bali, the stinky cheese, the switched wine labels. I thought about the desperate, furious girl I had been, and the calm, successful woman I had become. They had vacationed in Bali while I struggled to pay rent. They had asked me to house sit, seeing me as a convenient solution to their minor problems. In doing so, they had handed me the keys, not just to their house, but to my own future. The last laugh wasn't just about a clever prank or a viral social media post. It was about the long, quiet chuckle that comes when you realize that the very things meant to break you, the neglect, the condescension, the struggle, can become the raw materials for building an unshakable life. I started the car and drove away, not with a sense of vengeance, but with a profound sense of peace. The sister they left behind had not just house sat their home. She had taken up permanent residence in a life of her own design. And it was a life far more beautiful and far more fulfilling than any vacation in paradise could ever be.